This is Lagers and Loudmouths, Conversations Unfiltered.
Conversations Unfiltered. Welcome, thinkers and drinkers, to episode 17 of Lagers and Loudmouths. We are trucking right along. We've got a fun one out for you today. No guest today, just Tyler and I here shooting the shit today. We got a couple fun topics, though. I like both of these topics a lot. So, but before we get into topics, we are Lagers and Loudmouths. So, Tyler, tell us what we are drinking today besides the bourbon.
Yeah, we got a little bit of bourbon here, but it's Saturday, so we're gonna wear it out today. Yep. But no, we are drinking Kilt Lifter from Four Peaks Brewing out of Temple, Arizona. This is a red/amber ale that's kind of Scottish inspired. So it's red, brownish color, malty, 6% ABV. At least that's what Untappd says. I think the bottle says.
What the bottle says, yeah.
Okay, so 6% ABV, 21 IBU. Very smooth, a little bit of metallic-y on the back end. But
honestly, that could be the age of the beer. You brought me, you're a cheap ass, so you brought me beer that's 2 years old. But
yeah, we're running a little low on the Lagers and Loudmouths beer stock, so I just pulled a couple out of my fridge. But still a solid brew. Very, very drinkable.
It is. And if you want to support us to get us newer beer, please let me know. I can send you my Venmo, and I will happily accept your dollars for beer.
We accept all donations. We'll shout your name out, whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, so whatever you want.
But that's what we're drinking. Super excited about it. But Cam, kick us off with our serious topic of the day.
Yeah, so we got a fun one for you today. And this is one I think we both kind of have pretty strong opinions on, one way or the other. It is, should people, you guys are people, I assume, unless you're aliens, in which case, welcome to Lagers and Loudmouth.
If you want a guest spot, hit us up.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know how that's going to look, but I'm all down for it. Should people prioritize work-life balance over career success? Take it away.
I like this one.
Give me your off the top of the head answer, yes or no. Or do you have a preference?
I personally have a preference, and I think it is a very personal kind of decision.
It is.
I think people are wired differently, so what works for me or you may not work for somebody else. But just off the cuff, yes, I think people should prioritize work-life balance 100%.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. And we'll get into the kind of the nitty-gritty of it, to why we think that work-life balance should be more equitable, I guess is a good word to use there, so that there's nothing wrong with wanting to get ahead, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to spend time with your family. So we'll kind of get into the nitty-gritty of which one, and we'll kind of delve into kind of how we think is the best approach to a kind of work-life balance. Yeah,
you kind of mentioned, so you kind of have a teeter-totter, like a scale right now. So it's like, where does that, work balance and life balance kind of...
Where do you think you fall?
If you would have asked me this 8 months ago, I'd probably say that my work-life balance was very poor.
Yeah, and I would agree with you from an outsider's perspective. I think you put a lot more stock into your work than maybe your life. And I mean, you still have fun and you still hang out with friends and your wife, but I do think you put a lot of stock into your work.
Yeah, and I did recently change positions in the same company, which in the past, 4 or 5 months.
Has that improved it?
I feel like it has, yeah. It's still a 9 to 5. There's still a little bit of stress involved, but I mean, you're going to kind of find that anywhere you go. And what I was really looking for when I made this transition was, I want to be able to shut my computer off at the end of the day and kind of just not take all that shit home with me. Yep. And in my previous position, it was a lot of taking that shit home.
And there's a lot of times we can go out on Saturdays and you're always fucking answering emails, and I'd yell at your ass like, get off the phone.
Yeah.
You're not committed to these people on a Saturday at 2:00, but you were kind of stuck in that mindset where you always needed to help somebody.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I do want to help people. I do want to get my job done and do it efficiently. And it's like when you're drinking from a fire hose, so to speak. That's the term that I used, in my previous position. It was one of those things where it made me less stressed out to take care of that stuff off the clock, so to speak, because you didn't
have to come back to it Monday morning.
I get a lot of anxiety, like over the weekends, if I know I have 50 emails that I'm walking into on Monday morning. I'm just dreading that, and that affects my weekend.
It does.
And the fun I want to have, or the things I want to do.
Should that be happening? I mean, and again, that's kind of how you're wired. You do kind of tend to hold things like that. But should that be? You should, in all reality, be able to just shut it off Friday at 3:00, 5:00, whatever time you get off, and not think about it again until Monday.
Yeah, and I think it really depends on the position you're in.
It does.
if you work at McDonald's, you can totally do that.
Yeah.
If you work at a major corporation, not so much. And it also depends on what your position in the corporation is, right?
It does.
So I mean, with additional responsibility, you should have additional compensation, and you have additional expectations.
And I think you touched on compensation, and I don't want to get into that, but I think that's one of the biggest issues of our country is we don't pay people what they deserve.
Yeah, I think that's for the most part true. I feel like I'm pretty fairly compensated for what I do, and that's the reason why I keep doing what I'm doing. So that's good. But coming back to work-life balance, I really do think it is important for your mental health. I think having a really hard work ethic and grinding and trying to, get money and save for your future is very important.
It is.
But at the same time, it's like, and I've come to realize this over the past, probably 5 to 8 years. It's like, okay, when I get to be 62, 65, 67 or whatever, it's like, okay, if I have $5 million saved up, that's awesome. But if I die 2 years later, what the hell was all that for?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And you're not going to have any kids, so you got nobody to leave it to even at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, if you're still around, I'll toss you a couple $100,000.
Appreciate it. I hope you die. I hope you die soon. Sorry. And you hit on mental health. Obviously, mental health is a big, and that's kind of, we live in a culture now where mental health is getting a lot more play, as it should. But the physical health too. There is numerous research studies to show that the toll that the not having a good work-life balance takes on your actual physical health, the cortisol release for like hurting your body. So it's not just a mental thing; it legit is a physical thing. It will put you in an early grave.
Yeah, and I see that too. It's like I'd like to be healthier, and you say that all the time, but it's like when I'm in the office or whatever, and I'm having a really shitty day and it's stressful. It's like, man, I'll go downstairs and buy junk food out of the vending machine.
Yeah, you get you a Twinkie and you hit your caffeine, Red Bull, whatever it happens to be.
Monster and a freaking sandwich or something, or chips or whatever, and it's like that ain't good for you.
No, and then again, the cortisol stress hormone. If you're constantly stressed all the time due to your work, it's going to play a pretty big factor on that.
And I think a big thing is in America, I don't think the corporate structure in America values a work-life balance as much as...
They say they do, but you're right, they don't.
In a typical 9-to-5 job, you have PTO and sick time, and that's part of your compensation package. That's part of your benefits. And it's like, when you feel like
you can't take it.
Yeah, when you feel guilty for taking a benefit that you're entitled to, it's like, that sucks. I do it every year. I get X number of weeks vacation.
And you feel like an asshole taking it.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like I struggle to use it all because I'm in a use it or lose it situation.
Yeah, and if you don't use it, it's gone. But
right, so I always end up working the first 8 months out of the year.
Then you'll try to bank off just to get rid of them. So
yeah, and I don't take any time off, and then I get towards the end of the year, and I'm like, oh shit, I need to start taking time off, and just burning it for no reason.
Yeah. No, I get that, and. I'm not going to call out my company's name because they do pay me well and I don't want to lose my job. But full disclosure, nothing we say on here is, what is our disclaimer?
The thoughts and opinions on this show are solely ours and are in no way a reflection of our employers.
Exactly. All right. So saying that, my employer often, you know how employers are. They give you the rah speech once a month, once a quarter, whatever it happens to be in this meeting saying, you guys are so important to us and you guys need to do this and please take care of your mental health. But then at the same time, when we ask for those things, you feel like an asshole trying to take time off.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, somebody's got to pick up that extra work, especially in my line of work, teaching. I can't just leave a class and say, hey, figure it out, guys. Somebody's got to be there to teach it. It doesn't feel like companies in our country are set up for success with work-life balance.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think there's some exceptions to the rule, but I think generally that's a good representation, at least in my opinion. One thing I want to bring up is generational workers. So, back, the boomers, the people who are, 55, 65, it's like, and this happens in every generation, the older generation looks at the younger generation. It's like, what the hell are you guys doing?
I mean, I'm kind of doing that now. I mean, and I'm not that old. I'm in my mid 30s, but I look at these kids now. It's like, God damn, these kids are dumb.
I can see what you're saying. Yeah.
But they're not. And that is one of the things actually we're seeing a lot more. Sorry to interrupt, but that's one of the things we're seeing a lot more now is that this generation is prioritizing work-life balance a lot more.
That's exactly what I'm getting at. So, go online, go on Reddit and read some of this shit because it's toxic. But it's like you got these older people or these people that work really shitty blue-collar jobs, and they're like, oh, you pussies, I work 80 hours a week, and I've been doing that for 40 years, and you guys are soft. And it's like...
And you walk with the hunchback guy.
And it's like, I really do think that they're trying to... I don't know if flex is the right word, but
they're trying to justify their
yes.
benefit to the world.
Yes. No, I think they're trying to justify the fact that their situation sucks. And they're like, no, I'm not the problem. You're the problem. Because
you don't want to work more than 40 hours a week.
They feel validated that they're like, I work 80 hours a week and you guys are a bunch of pussies and you guys don't do that. But it's like, I don't care who you are. Like, who wants to work 80 hours a week?
No, and that's the thing with work-life balance. What you got to do, what we should realize, is that work is work. It's not who you are. Maybe for some people it is. I mean, some people they get their identity from what they do.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think I even do that to an extent. I am a college professor. It's like if people talk to me, it's like, hey, what do you do? That's kind of what I tell them. So I think you get your identity from that to an extent. But at the end of the day, it's just a job. Yeah. I am very, very replaceable. I quit tomorrow. My entire company forgets about me in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And back to kind of my point, it's like, I kind of feel bad for those people because they're trying to validate in their own head that,
they've been screwed their entire life.
Exactly. Because it's like, I don't care what you say, man. You want to work 80 hours a week on an offshore oil rig? No one wants to do that. Yeah.
No, people want to have fun.
Yeah.
Life should be about having fun.
Right. And it's, what's the point? I've really come to a realization, like, I don't want to work for 50, 55 years of my life just to have 5 really good years.
Yeah.
I want to try to enjoy, the things I have while I have them and take any opportunities to do cool shit while I can and while I'm relatively young.
So you can plan yourself a vacation.
Yeah, and man, that's been really hard for me.
It is because is it that you just don't want to take time off of work or just coordinating schedules or what?
It's
a little bit of both.
It's really the work thing, man. I have never, since I've been in the working force.
Now, why do you feel like if you do that you're going to come back and like they're going to be like, Tyler, we didn't really need you. We can let you go.
No,
that kind of thing?
I don't think that. I think in the company I have, they see me as a valuable asset, which is nice. And I could totally take a week off, 2 weeks off at one time, and they would let me do that. They wouldn't
pick up the slack.
Yeah, they wouldn't look at me and be like, oh wow, you're not dedicated. Like I feel like I have a really good kind of respect. It's me that's blocking it because I'm like, oh fuck, man, if I take a week off, I'm going to come back to 300 emails and it's just going to be a fucking nightmare. I've never taken more than 2 days off sequentially
without actually looking at
except when I went on my honeymoon last year.
And I'm the same. I get it.
And even then,
you were still checking emails.
Oh yeah, I was replying to emails, and I had my coworkers replying back to me like, "Dude, what the fuck are you doing?"
As they should be.
Turn it off, drink beer, and go sit on the beach.
Yeah, as they should. Well, we're going to Boston, and at beginning of July, I expect you to do no emailing.
End of August,
whatever it is. Yeah, beginning of August. Beginning of August. Yeah. Nonetheless, I expect you to do no emailing. And
we'll see.
Listen, I'm the same way. I have one full-time job, company that I teach for, and then I teach 3 other adjunct for 3 other schools. So I don't ever truly feel like I'm completely off. Tiff and I are going to Italy in about 3-4 weeks, and I've been trying to coordinate all my schools because, again, my main job is off, and that's great because that's my main job, so I don't have to worry. That's the biggest headache or the biggest kind of thing I have to commit to. But I've still got 2 of my schools that are going to be going during that time, so I'm still got to take my laptop, still got to do a little bit of work, and that's my own doing because I have those extra jobs.
And one thing that I've at least personally seen in the workforce in the past 5 years with the company that I'm at currently is, we do have a lot of younger workforce coming in,
Mm-hmm.
Fresh out of college, 25 to 27, somewhere in those lines. And it's like they do kind of push like, no, I'm taking off. I'm prioritizing myself for this short duration of time. It doesn't mean that I'm not committed to the company, but I'm going to do what I'm going to do. You've given me this, PTO that is a benefit that's part of my compensation package, and I'm going to utilize it. And I really do think that's kind of a good transition. And I think that companies are starting to realize this now, because at the end of the day, and you mentioned this before, it was different back in the day because people worked for one company for their entire career.
Life, yeah.
That is so rare at this point.
It is. Listen, I've been at my my main school for a little over a decade now, and I'm one of the longer tenured people, and that's just 10 years.
When I was in my prior position, I left that position at about 2.5 years into the company to transition with the same company in a new position, and I was the quote unquote senior in that department.
Yeah.
And I was there for 2.5 years.
Now, do you feel like your current company is one you can ride out, like for your career?
I don't know. I will say that I was very fortunate when they presented me with the opportunity to transition into a new role, which I jumped on.
Yeah.
And that made me quite a bit happier in the organization, because I did feel like I was, I could still go in, grind, work hard, and then leave and reduce the stress.
So overall, this new position has been much better for you.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
And that was what was really cool. And I'm not going to spoil anything, but this kind of translates into my hot take. But I went to executive leadership and I said, hey, this is how I'm feeling right now. This is literally what I said. People will shovel shit for a small amount of time, but if it is becoming the norm, people are going to leave.
Yeah.
And I was at that point.
And your company was receptive to that?
100%.
Well, kudos to them. That's a good company that they were receptive to that, and they made changes to help you. So that's good.
Yeah. And I think there was a little bit of respect built there, because I saw that as, I expressed my opinion in a professional way.
Yep.
And they were receptive to it, and
they saw they knew your value.
Exactly. And they didn't necessarily say that, but actually they might have said that. But I felt after those conversations that they're like, no, we like Tyler. He's an asset. We don't want to lose him. Let's try to figure out something that works for everybody. And we essentially got to that happy medium, and I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah. All right, so kind of offshoot to that then, so playing right off of that, do you think companies should do a better job of implementing actual policies that promote work-life balance? Like they say, take your PTO, please do it, you've got it, you've earned it. But we all know, at least I feel like this, they don't really mean it.
It depends. I do think it depends. I agree with what you say. I guess I'd need to ask, what kind of policies? Like, do you have an example?
I don't know. Like, what I always think about, and fuck Britain, just side note, but I always think about they have a mandatory 1 month holiday that almost everybody gets in their country. Most EU countries get like a 1 month, what they consider holiday. That would would that not be amazing if you had that?
It would be amazing. It would be a very big culture shift in the American workforce.
It would.
Because the American workforce is 24/7.
It is. It shouldn't be. Well, I mean, no.
If you're talking about work life,
it should be in terms of productivity, and that's fine. But as long as you plan those 1 month holidays around your entire, if you have enough employees, it shouldn't be a big deal.
Yeah, I agree. I'm very business mindset. So
yeah.
From an employee level, yeah, that sounds fucking awesome. From a corporation level, that sounds...
It doesn't, though. I mean, we can see how successful it is in all the other EU countries. They don't lose productivity. They just kind of find a way to balance it. So why can't we do it? It's not that we can't. I just think it's that we don't want to.
And in my current company, in my prior position, I dealt with a lot of, customers on site that were from, Asia, Europe. And that was one of my favorite parts of that position, is getting to know these people from other parts of the world and listening about their culture and how they work on a day-to-day basis, just in their personal and professional lives. And I can say I've heard comments where they look at us and they're like, holy crap, man, you guys are just pedal to the metal all the time.
Like,
how do you
take
do
a
that?
goddamn breath.
Right, exactly. So I think there's definitely room for improvement, and I think there can be a happy medium between, taking, shutting down a company for an entire month. And
Well, you don't have, that's the thing, is that if they're willing to employ enough people, you don't have to shut down the company. And that's the problem, is we try to get by with the bare minimum all the time.
yeah, you see that in the corporate world for sure. If you're a capable individual, I think a lot of companies will try to put as much crap on your shoulders as you can, especially if you're a good employee, because, hey, he knows what he's doing. He's solid. He can handle it. Let's see how much we can put on him, before he breaks. I don't think that's necessarily the intent going in, but that's how
that's how it works.
That's how the worker bees feel.
Yeah.
And I've experienced it too.
So let me just kind of bring in a couple of these EU countries. So if you look at any study, and these studies come out every single year, the happiest countries in the world. Can you name any of them?
Probably the Netherlands.
Yeah, Netherlands is number 2. Denmark is up there at number 1. Guess what Denmark's kind of typical working week looks like?
So funny story. Some of my customers were from that part of the world, so I have a pretty good idea. I've asked them personally. They work about 35 hours a week.
Yep. 37 hours a week is typical, minimum of 5 weeks of paid vacation per year.
That's a lot.
They have some of the best parental leave policies. So in America, it's shit. It's absolute terrible. We have a kid, so when we had a kid, fortunately we didn't time it. We just got lucky that Tiff was off during the summer because she didn't teach during the summer for the college she was at the time. So we had Amos in May, and then she was off until August, which was great. But I got a grand total of a week of paternal leave as a male.
That's super generous.
Yeah.
Wow.
You would think.
What'd you do with that week?
Yeah, probably nothing. Just got shit on and...
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, literally. But some of the other countries, some of your, I don't know exactly what Denmark's is, but I want to think it's close to 9 months.
Yeah, when I talk to those individuals personally, I think that rings a bell.
And I mean, again, their quality of life is significantly higher. Why can't we do that? That's the question. Why?
Yeah, I mean,
we can. We just don't. We do not care enough about people. Is the problem?
Yeah, I would.
It's hard to argue against that.
It's a fair statement. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how to fix it. I mean, like I said, you're right. It would be a complete culture shift.
It's a cultural shift.
Will it ever happen? Probably not.
I don't know, because like I said,
the younger generation is pushing for it.
Yeah, and here's the thing. At least in Tennessee, we're an at-will state.
We are.
So you can leave for any reason as an employee, or the employee can terminate you for any reason.
Which is also a part of the animosity, because if I want to take 2 weeks off and I actually have the PTO, do I have to worry about my employer being like, this guy's not really committed, I can get rid of him?
I've never, that doesn't seem like a concern to me. If it is, you're working for a shitty company.
No, I agree. And there are good and bad companies out there. We don't want to kind of pigeonhole everybody as a bad company in the U.S., but
I do think you're going to see more of a cultural push as the younger generation gets older into this, and some of that younger generation starts going into management roles. I do think we are going to see a cultural shift in the next 10 to 15 years.
I hope so. I think we need it. All right, so I kind of got one last question on this topic, and this is kind of personal to me, but can remote work help with a better work-life balance? Working from home.
Oh,
we saw a shit ton of this during COVID. I have personally been working remote since 2015, so I've been going on almost a decade now. I've been working from my house. I think it's a fair compromise, and the research has actually shown that employees are more productive when they get to work from home than having to drive into an office and do the work and then drive home.
Yeah, I think that's a totally reasonable, happy medium. I would love to work remote. Maybe not all the time. I think that was really a sticking point up until COVID.
Yeah.
And then we implemented all the remote work in COVID.
And it showed it can work.
Yeah, it showed it can work. And I think a lot of companies have kind of transitioned into either
part-time or
a hybrid schedule or a 100% remote. personally, I don't in my line of work, I don't think I would want to be 100% remote. I could totally do it, and I don't think I would complain about it. I think for me, a hybrid schedule would work. I'd like to come in the office maybe 2 days a week and work from home 3 days a week. I think
that's fair.
And it really comes down to the employee and the work ethic, especially.
No, and that at the end of the day, you have some people who would definitely take advantage of that.
And and they do. And we've seen that, but at the end of the day, it comes back to how you're perceived in the company. If you're a hard worker and you're responsible and you do your job, then yes. If you got people that are milking the system, then those aren't good employees and you need to get rid of them anyway.
But if you have good leadership, they're going to realize that ideally. But
and because like I said before, there's no really company loyalty. I'm not going to say that. There's company loyalty, but it's not
the way it used to be.
It's not the way it used to be because everybody is replaceable.
Yeah.
And
I'm not going to work at Lexmark for the next 40 years.
So.
But the thing just kind of an offshoot, the other thing we have to consider there is we don't get pensions like they used to. Pensions kept a lot of people working where they were working.
Right. Yeah. And that
doesn't exist.
Well, that's an incentive. And I think maybe if we had pensions that you would see that.
Maybe.
I mean, that's a pretty good benefit.
I got a 401k, but I'm paying into that. That's not my company giving me anything.
Well, you get a company match, but
you do to an extent.
3, 4, 5%, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think, and that's the problem. You have such a diverse gradient of employees. You're going to have employees that do the absolute bare minimum and just skate by with as little as they can do. Then you got the employees that are, dedicated. They have work ethic. They have integrity for what they're doing, and they want to do the best of their ability. So you're never going to, weed all of that out. But I think if the employees and the company, have a good communication and come to a happy medium, because I think it is a balancing act. It is. Not everybody can work 100% remote all the time, and I don't think that's a question. Especially I'm coming from my perspective in a manufacturing industry, so I think that there's if the communication is good, then there can be a happy medium in regards to where you're at, work-life balance, all that stuff.
Yeah. All right. So I want to play off of something you just said. You talked about how there are some employees who just kind of do the minimum, meet the expectations. What's wrong with that? Nothing. You are paid for a specific job. If you complete that job to its T, is there anything wrong with doing the bare minimum? There shouldn't be.
No, I don't think there's anything wrong with...
There's this expectation in our country that you have to go the extra mile all the time. And that shouldn't be the case. I am paid for a specific position. If I do that specific position to the best of my ability, what's wrong with just doing that?
I don't think there's anything wrong with doing that.
But we live in a culture where it is. If you're not willing to just go above and beyond, you're kind of looked down upon as the peon of the company.
Yeah. I think this is where we disagree a little bit, actually. Yeah. So, and maybe it's just the way I was brought up, but I've said this on the podcast before. I have a very high expectation of myself, I have a very high expectation of the people that surround me, and I am disappointed daily.
In yourself? Or the people?
No, in the people around me, mostly. And that's more of a me thing than anybody else thing.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Okay, so let's go back to what you said. You're hired to do a job.
Is it okay to just do the bare minimum? Is basically the question. It should be.
I don't like the term bare minimum.
The bare minimum is meeting the expectations of what you were hired for. Is it okay to meet that? It should be.
Yeah. And the thing is, in a company, you have different levels of people.
You're going to have your higher achievers, you're going to have your kind of middle people, and you're going to have your people that are just...
Exactly. And, I think, okay, yeah, I understand what you're saying.
No, listen, I'm not saying that, obviously, you know me, I am not that kind of person, but should it be okay to be that kind of person?
No, I think it is okay because every company needs that. Some people just want to be worker bees. Yeah. They want to come in, do their job, and go home. That's totally fine. Companies need that. Companies need that mid-tier that, they do their job and then they go try to, do a little bit more and try to, gain traction for where they want to go in the future. And then you got those like high functioning employees that just want to go balls to the wall all the time. I think all three of those people are 100% necessary in a company. And
Go ahead.
I think what I equated to was, maybe it was incorrect on my part, but I equated bare minimum to milking the system.
No, I think you're still meeting the expectations of your job.
Okay, yeah. If you're talking about objective meeting the expectations, no problem with that.
Which of those people do you think has a better work-life balance?
Probably the people that
meeting the expectations.
Meet expectations.
So what's wrong with that?
Nothing.
And that's and listen, I'm not calling you a person, but I think that's the culture that we live in, is that if you're not willing to go the extra, then you're not really committed to the job, and that's bullshit.
I can see how that definition applies. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with meeting expectations. If you're trying to skate by and get away.
No. Of course.
No, that's two different things.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree with you. Like I said, I think every company, it's essential to have those three tiers of employees. Yeah.
And I think that's what we need to be okay with in our country, because those people are kind of looked down upon as like, oh, so and so John over there is not doing it, or he's just doing the bare minimum. He leaves at 5:00 on the dot. Why, he's not really committed to this company, and that's bullshit.
No. I think that I don't agree with that statement. But at the same time, I think it's problematic if that bare minimum employee has aspirations to grow within the company.
And that's fair. That's 100% fair.
If you're okay with the status quo and you want to do this job and you meet expectations, that's fine.
Yeah.
But if you have
aspirations to move up,
right?
Yeah.
And if you get pissed off because, hey, I do the bare minimum and I'm not getting a promotion, well, sorry, that's tough shit.
Yeah, I can talk about this in light of academia. So in academia, in order to kind of, professorship has its ranks. You got like associate, you have assistant, you have full professor. And in order to kind of move up in the ranks, you have to be doing basically extra outside of your normal job of teaching. You have to be doing research or presenting or things like that. And that's fine. That's fine if you have those aspirations to move higher. But some people don't. Some people are fine with the status quo.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And I would beg to, I would make the argument that those people perhaps have probably a better work-life balance than the rest of us.
100%. But I guess my message to those people is don't be pissed off if
when you get passed up for the promotion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or if you don't get a raise or something like that.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Anything else you want to talk about here?
No, not particularly. I think we covered it pretty well.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. No, I think we're pretty good. I did have this quote that I saw yesterday when I was doing some research for this. And I just kind of want to, we'll kind of end with this and move on to our fun topics. The quote was, I don't want to do my best. All right. So follow me here. I don't want to do my best. I want to give a comfortable 60% and have time for my shows. So basically have time for my life.
I don't know how I feel about that quote.
I mean, 60%, and don't take stock in the 60%. Just
that's really where I gravitated towards.
Yeah, it's going to be, but take stock and kind of relate it back to what I just talked about in terms of just meeting the expectations.
If you're talking about work-life balance, where you're talking, okay, I'm going to dedicate 60% of my 24-hour day or whatever to my career and 40% to my work-life balance. Yeah,
that's fair.
That's fair. If you're saying I'm going to go in and I'm going to do my job at 60% of my ability, that's where I have a problem with it.
Yeah. So ultimately, yeah. All right. So just kind of let's end us here. I know I said I was going to be, but I just keep going, get new ideas. I don't care about the time. Don't you look at that timer?
I was going to say we've been 30 to 45 minutes in the past. Couple have been an hour or so. But
it happens.
It's
good conversation.
No, it's authentic conversation. I think it's important.
All right. So last question before we move to our fun topic. And this is going to be kind of on a personal question. How do you personally think you can improve your work-life balance?
I'm really glad you brought this up because I had a point I wanted to bring up.
Oh, good. Okay.
How could I improve my work-life balance? Not filling any second of free time with other shit.
You're calling me out here a little bit.
Well,
because I'm the worst at that.
Well, I think we're both on the same page because for me personally, obviously, I have my 9 to 5 job. I work probably an average of 45 hours a week.
Yep.
I have a second job at the brewing company where, I'm a bartender.
Probably putting in another 15, 20 hours a week.
Yeah, probably. And then that wasn't enough. I had to, say, hey, I'm going to do trivia every week.
Yeah.
Said that wasn't enough. Hey, let me be the procurement manager for the bar. So,
which is good. The beer has improved since you've been doing that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But at the same time, I know for me, I fill every second of free time with other stuff, and a lot of that is work. I have 2 jobs, but if you break down 1907, I have
multiple jobs.
I have
within
3.
That job.
I probably have 3 jobs at 1907 total. So, I do it to myself. So how could I improve work-life balance? Probably by not volunteering for things that I necessarily don't need to volunteer for.
That's fair.
But at the same time, I feel like I am an incredibly capable individual, and I will do anything that I set my mind to.
And you want to see both your companies, the brewery and the one you work for, succeed.
Exactly. So, I'm a very, driven person. So I do put my full effort into anything I do. There's a famous quote from Ron Swanson that says, never half-ass 2 things, whole-ass 1 thing.
I like that.
And I connect with that. So
Yeah.
anything that I'm doing, I am giving my 100% effort to do it to the best of my ability. And I can't speak for my success, but personally, I think I do a very good job. And from the feedback that I've gotten from everybody throughout my professional career, they kind of validate that. So, that's just kind of where I like.
What's your takeaway? How can you do better? Stop volunteering for things that probably are pretty low on the totem pole, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think how I can improve my work-life balance is kind of putting my foot down and saying, hey, I am going to take 5 days off consecutively. We are going to go.
And you're not going to check your email.
Yeah, like I know me and Kate. Like I said, the only time that I took that much time off consecutively was for our honeymoon.
Yeah,
and I was still checking email. So I mean, we have aspirations to, go to Germany.
Yeah,
and
listen, you guys don't have kids. You got to do this shit.
I think that's also part of the reason why I do volunteer, because I have a
no
lot
other
of
outside expectations.
Yeah, I have.
But you do. You have a wife.
I have my wife.
That's a pretty big expectation.
Yeah, and both of us have 2 jobs. She works at 1907 too, so there are some times where we're 2 ships passing in the night.
Yeah, you're just like, hey.
Yeah, we sleep next to each other for 7 hours, but sometimes that's all the kind of connection that we have. So,
and that's not great.
It's not.
I mean, I get that it is what it is, but it's not great. I mean, you need that relationship.
Yeah, and
that'll come. That'll come.
I would say that we have an understanding.
I get that. I get that.
She, and I don't tell her what to do. She's working a second job completely voluntary. If she chose to step away from that, I would totally support that for whatever reason that she provides. But I think she also understands the person that I am and the way that I'm wired.
For sure.
So, she never pressures me to say, hey,
I'm not getting enough attention. Fix this for me.
Exactly. You're working too much. You're putting too much dedication here.
Yeah.
I do think that.
And just as somebody who's been married for going on 16 years, that will evolve. 100%. That will evolve. Initially, you're kind of where you are, but that will evolve to where you want to spend more time with them.
Sure, and I'm sure it'll come to that point.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm really focused on my future and just saving all of those all that money, so to speak, to for the future.
Retire at 55. That's my goal.
And the thing, and we're way fucking over here, but
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You said, how do you improve work-life balance? I said I have technically 2 jobs, but the 1907 job, I almost view that as work-life balance.
For you, that is fun for the most part.
It's a fun job, and trust me, there's frustrations.
Of course.
It's a fun job, but there's frustrations in any company.
Minimal, but it's minimal stress. I mean, you get to go and you get to shoot the shit with people, serve them beer.
Yeah. So it's kind of a passion project for me. And it's like, if I didn't want to, I don't have to be there. I choose to be there.
That's fair.
And I do find that as work-life balance, even though it is technically work.
That's fair. No, I can see that.
That's kind of where I lie on it.
All right, fair. And my, if anybody who knows me knows I've got a pretty good work-life balance. And like I said, I think remote work helps for me. I get to work from home. I have for almost a decade now. My kid's home during the summer right now. It's not that big of a deal. We just figure it out. My only suggestion for all the people out there, including you, delete the email off your phone. Delete your work email off your phone. When you're off of work, you should be off of work. I did this at the beginning of 2023. That was kind of one of my goals coming in the year. Is like, you know what? When I close my computer at night, I should be done. But I wasn't, because I was always like, you're just always checking emails all the time.
I will say, in my situation, I am compensated on a monthly basis for having my personal phone connected
during work hours, not after hours.
Sure, I agree. That's fine.
That would be my only recommendation to everybody. Delete that. Honestly, I did it, started in 2023, beginning of 2023. I was like, you know what, done. Deleting it off my phone. I don't owe you guys my time outside of work, and it's minimal. What do I miss? Maybe 2-3 emails that I don't see until 8 a.m. the next morning. Not a big deal.
Yeah.
But it's just taking that stress off my mind that when I stop at 4 or 5 o'clock every day, it's done.
Yeah.
So that would be my suggestion.
Yeah, I think that's pretty.
But otherwise,
reasonable.
I'm pretty happy with my work-life balance.
Yeah, I would say I am too at this point in my life.
All right, so message to all you out there: do a little better. I mean, don't feel like you have to give 100% to your company all the time. If you're meeting the expectations, if you're doing your job well, that's okay. And don't be afraid to take your PTO. Take your PTO.
Take your PTO.
All right, so what are we talking? What's our fun topic today?
Yeah. Fun topic of the day, kind of an offshoot of last week's fun topic, but
2 weeks or 4 weeks ago. Because
no. Oh yeah, that's right.
So it's been a few weeks, about a month ago. Yeah, thereabouts.
We've been drinking a little bit. Anyway, fun topic of the week. What are your top 3 favorite TV series?
All right. So the last time we did top 3 movies of all time. In full disclosure, Tyler got a bunch of shit from our friends because he doesn't watch movies. He doesn't watch films.
I did watch John Wick.
You did? How'd you like it?
It was good.
Listen, you can't go into that expecting to get like some enlightenment.
No. I agree. I think my problem with it was very hyped up before I watched it, and it was a phenomenal movie. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I would watch it again. I thought it was very predictable.
It was.
But
I mean, it's an action movie.
Yeah.
You got to watch the rest of them, though. They do build upon each other. The fourth one, I think, is the next best. The first one, obviously, you're kind of building the storyline.
Yeah. But it was very predictable, but I very much enjoyed it, and thank you for that recommendation and pushing me to finally watch it.
Yeah, I will be more impressed when you watch Forrest Gump and Lord of the Rings.
I won't, but you can keep
all right.
on that.
Top 3 movie or TV series of all time.
What's your number 3?
Number 3 for me. And so I took this as just any series that I watch, not necessarily like a sitcom, but I kind of took it as like a potential like reality is kind of where I'm going with this third one. So this third one for me is a show called Somebody Feed Phil. You haven't watched it. I've mentioned it once or twice on the podcast.
Is that the guy that travels around the world and just...
Yeah. So he travels around the world. He's Phil Rosenthal. He actually wrote Everybody Loves Raymond, the series Everybody Loves Raymond. So he started 2-3 years ago a series on Netflix called Somebody Feed Phil, and he basically just travels around the country or around the world eating at different places and talking to all these people and learning about all these different cultures. So when I think about a series a TV series, I think about something that I want to come back to. Like if it's just a random day, I've got 30 minutes to kill, what am I going to turn on?
Yeah.
Phil for me is always the go-to. It's just like, I've seen every episode probably half a dozen times because it's just kind of my go-to turn on. I want to see where Phil's at, to see what he's eating, see what he's doing. So that'd probably be number 3 for me.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Yep. All right, what do you got for 3?
Number 3, probably no surprise to anybody, I mentioned Ron Swanson earlier in the episode, Parks and Recreation.
No, I've done a disservice to America. I've watched like the first 3 episodes and I just couldn't. Everybody says if you skip the first season and go to this, or maybe it's a different series I'm thinking of.
I don't know. I've watched this series all the way through probably half a dozen times. It's kind of our go-to, put it on in the background and just kind of enjoy it.
And that's what Phil is for me.
Yeah, so I would highly recommend watching it. I connect very well with it because it is kind of that office setting kind of
Same
TV
vibe,
series.
yeah, staring at the camera, talking to the camera.
It's in government, local government, which I also kind of connect to in my current role. So I find it fucking awesome. I love Ron Swanson. He's my favorite character. So that's one that's near and dear to my heart.
All right, that's fair. I mean, I can't argue with that show. All right, you go ahead and give me your second one.
Number 2, going a little bit more serious, Breaking Bad.
Again, I've done a disservice to the American people. We started it probably 5-6 years ago, made it through the first season. We were into the second. We do this a lot. We just kind of fall off the wagon for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I'll blame it on life. That's probably an excuse. So we just kind of fell off the wagon, but it is on my very short list of things to start soon.
I would say both of my picks, 2 totally different vibes, whatever you're in the mood for, but they are both. I think you really need to watch it from episode 1 all the way to the end on both of those at least once because they are very, very good.
Now, did you do the Better Call Saul offshoot?
Yeah, we did that too. That was really cool. I like that a lot. I don't think we've finished that series. We watched the first few seasons or whatever, but kind of like you, we just kind of fell off it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I really enjoy Better Call Saul as well.
All right.
Not as good as Breaking Bad, but watch Breaking Bad, and then if you still have the itch, watch Better Call Saul because
they play right off each other.
Yeah, Saul's a great character in the show too. So
okay. All right, I'm putting it on my list, my short list. We just finished a series, which I'm going to talk about in just a second, as my number 1, which is interesting. So I'll add Breaking Bad to our next short list.
What's your number 2?
My number 2. Have you ever heard of The Good Place?
I can't say that I have.
So The Good Place is it's got Kristen Bell.
Okay.
You know Kristen Bell.
Mm-hmm.
So it follows the story of her as Eleanor Shellstrop. And basically what she does is she finds herself in the afterlife, and the whole time they're trying to figure out if they're in the good place or if they're actually in the bad place, because she wasn't a particularly good person in her actual life.
Gotcha.
It brings in a ton of philosophy. They talk a lot about a lot of your philosophers in there. So they bring in a lot. It's got a lot of good life lessons, I think, is what. So you got moral philosophy. They talk about just kind of redemption, growth as a person, and then afterlife. So I like it because personally, I like a 30-minute show versus an hour show, just because time is often short with a kid.
Sure.
So it's like 25-minute episodes, so I can get through it pretty quick. So
nice.
Yeah, I would highly recommend The Good Place. I don't know where it's streaming right now, but
you can find it.
Anywhere, just type in The Good Place. Kristen Bell. Yeah, and she's great in the show, as are all the characters.
Yep, solid.
All right, number 1.
My number 1 TV series is Letterkenny.
I tried. I really did. I tried so hard. I wanted to like it because everybody was telling me to like it.
I can understand how it's not for all people.
And I'm a pretty dry. You know me. My humor is moderately dry, as is that show. But for some reason, maybe it's just because it's self-reflection, I just couldn't get into it.
Yeah, I understand. Maybe I connect more. I mean, they're not from the Midwest. I'm originally from the Midwest, and they're
Canadian.
They're
right?
up in Canada, but there was a lot of stuff in the show that kind of connected to the Midwest, at least from a cultural standpoint. So I liked it from that standpoint. The one-liners are hilarious.
The one-liners are good.
And honestly, that's like the one TV series that I look at every single character, and I'm like, every single character had their exact place in that show, and removing any character would have been a disservice. Like, I think everything fit
together so well.
It fit together so well, and like the vibes between the characters were just solid. That's a show that I can watch just endlessly because I find it funny.
So it's like you want to turn off your brain, you turn it on.
Yeah.
You still laugh though.
Yeah, and it's not going to give you any mental revolutions or anything
No,
like that.
of course
not. It's a comedy show, but I really really connected with the humor in the show, with all the characters. It's one of my favorites of all time.
It's a good show. I mean, I've heard good things about it. And we tried it. Admittedly, I'm a short attention span. If it doesn't grab me within the first 2 or 3 episodes, I'm like, I'm done with this.
So you can't do that.
And I know I can't. And it's part of my problem. And the other problem is I just don't have a lot of TV time. I just don't have a ton of TV time with a kid.
That makes sense.
I usually get maybe an hour at night. And I'm one of those people that I feel bad if I start a show without Tiff. So I won't
Gotcha.
I won't start a show if she's not there.
You don't Netflix cheat on her?
No, I have never Netflix cheated on you, dear. I promise. So yeah, it's hard.
I get it.
But all right.
What's your number one?
First for me, I'm gonna come back. Breaking Bad is next on the list, and then I'll move on from there.
Perfect.
All right, my number one. We just finished 3 days ago.
Okay.
So maybe there's some sort of what is like that newness bias where you have a bias because you just finished it.
I don't know the term, but I know what you're saying.
Let me see if I can Google it really quick. Also known as recency bias.
Okay, yeah,
All right, so recency bias. I just finished it 3 days ago, and we were a little late to the show on this because this show came out quite a while ago, but it was Ted Lasso.
Okay, I've heard many people. You've talked about it.
I've talked about it a lot,
and I have not watched it, but I might. Start.
You should. I'll let you borrow my Apple TV because I know you're cheap ass. So Ted Lasso. So basically, the premise of the story is Ted Lasso is he's who you want to be friends with. He's just this always upbeat guy. And what they did is some European soccer team called the Richmond FC decided to hire AFC Richmond decided to hire him as a coach. Absolutely zero experience. He had previously coached college football in the U.S.
Okay.
And the whole premise of him being hired was that he was going to, the wife was trying to get back at her recently divorced husband to basically run the program into the ground. And it turns out he does great at the job through lots of trials and tribulations. But you know me, I'm not a particularly emotional person.
Yep.
I have zero outward emotion, as most people would probably say.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that.
Yeah. So, but this in multiple episodes had me kind of teary eyed. You're like, oh shit, that's well written, and it was written. Ted Lasso is the main character. Jason Sudeikis wrote and produced the entire show. It's only 3 seasons. It stopped at 3 seasons. They have zero intention of going beyond 3 seasons, which I appreciate as well. I feel like a lot of shows will just keep going for the sake of going.
Yeah, you don't want to just beat a dead horse.
And they probably could have and made more money, but Jason Sudeikis ended it perfectly. So yeah.
I respect that from a writing standpoint.
Agreed.
Too.
Agreed. And Jason Sudeikis is great anyway. I mean, he's just a great actor, a good person. So yeah, I would. There's so many good characters. I was talking about this with Matt, who was on the show previously. If you had to kind of name your top characters outside of Ted Lasso, he's heads above. He's the number one winner.
Sure.
Outside of that, there's so many good characters in the show.
Yeah.
You want to root and be friends with every single character in the show.
Yeah, I think that's indicative of a really good show.
Yeah. So Ted Lasso, watch it. I highly recommend it. I'll give you my my password.
We'll take
later.
a peek at it.
Yeah. All right, so those are our top 3 shows. Share your top 3 shows with us. It doesn't matter what it is. Again, it can be reality TV. If you like the Kardashians, we will make fun of you behind the microphone, but we'll say good job. So tell us what your top 3 favorite shows are, and tell us what you think about work-life balance. But before we click off for the day, we have to finish up our hot takes.
Yeah. You want to kick us off, or you want me to roll?
I'll take it.
Go for it.
If you're ready for it.
Yep, go for it.
All right, this is potentially polarizing. I don't think so, though. As we usually say, we're not going to talk about politics on this show. I'm going to fucking talk about politics.
All right, go for it.
How my hot take is, how the hell is the best we can do goddamn Joe Biden and a fucking convicted felon? He is officially a convicted felon, whether or not you support him or whether or not you think it was a witch hunt, although I like witches, but whether or not you think it was a witch hunt just to get him off the ballot, nonetheless, this is the best we can do in America.
Yeah.
This is the best we can fucking do.
Honestly, that's kind of how I've seen every election.
Oh, it has in our life. You're right. It's always been
my
this way. But why does this have to be the expectation every time?
Because it's not objective. It's a giant game. It's a politic game. It's a money game.
Embarrassing.
Yeah, it's just strictly not objective.
Yeah. We got a man who's pushing 82, 83, and a man who's also pushing 80. And is now officially a convicted felon. Whether or not you think it was a witch hunt, that's fine. But nonetheless, he did commit all those crimes. He was tried by a jury. The jury found him guilty. And this is the best we can do to run our country, one of the best countries in the world.
Yeah, I don't have any qualms about that statement. I mean, it sucks, and I don't know how you change that.
I don't either. I don't have an answer except for go back to 5 or 6 or 7 episodes ago, and Matthew McConaughey. All right. You are my next president.
Yeah, we did do that
We
topic,
did.
didn't we?
Yeah. I don't remember when it was, but it's been a while.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. It's incredibly frustrating, and that's why I try not to pay attention.
And that's why we don't talk
possible.
about it here, because it is polarizing. And we're not telling you which way to vote one or the other, but this is the best we can do.
It's one giant pissing contest on a national scale.
And it's not even a good pissing contest. There's tiny dicks.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. All right, finish this off. What do you got?
Cool. So my hot take ties back to kind of our serious topic. Don't be afraid to have difficult conversations.
All right.
So I think people avoid conversations kind of to their own detriment. A lot of the times in fear of confrontation. I think these confrontations...
It makes people uncomfortable.
Yeah, it makes people uncomfortable. I think these confrontations don't get better with age and lead to stress and poor mental health.
So you're of the mindset, just get it out there right away.
Yeah, bad news does not age well with time.
It's not like a good wine.
Yeah, no, it's not like a fine wine. I feel like this is something that I have never struggled with in my life. I am very blunt and to the point, and I will have a difficult conversation with anybody, no questions asked. The outcome of that is kind of questionable.
We got to talk about your beard. Difficult conversations.
Thanks.
Sorry.
Appreciate that, man. But yeah, I think people are afraid to speak their mind. I think both in the personally and professionally for whatever XYZ reason. And I think that people kind of need to get away from that. And I'm not saying have a conversation and be a total dick about it.
I was getting ready to say, let's go back to what Bill said 3-4 weeks ago. Don't just be an asshole to be an asshole and say, oh, I'm just an asshole. That's how I am.
Yeah, no.
But
if you're feeling a certain way, I think you need to express that in a reasonable way. But don't shy away from having difficult conversations. I think, me personally, I probably needed to dial it back because I have no problem telling, anybody anything, essentially. So there is a happy medium, but...
There is. I think it's important to be direct, but you don't want to be an asshole.
Exactly. And there's a fine line there, but I think it is a line that needs to be well-defined for you personally, and you need to be okay with kind of getting up to that line. I think it would help a lot of people out. I think it would resolve a lot of misunderstandings as well.
It would. I think if you just let things sit, and a lot of times you're sitting there thinking this and somebody else is thinking this, where if you just came together.
Fucking talk about it.
Just talked about it, it would probably be over in 30 seconds. Yeah. You're sharing a beer by the end of it.
Yeah, 100%.
No, that's fair. That's good. That's a good hot take. Just talk to the people that you have qualms with. Don't be an asshole, unless it serves to be an asshole, I guess. I don't know.
There's a time and place
there
for
are
it.
times that being an asshole is necessary.
But don't make it a habit.
Yeah. All right. I like that. It's a good hot take. All right. Why don't you take us away?
Yeah. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the podcast. Very excited for all of our 18 listeners that consistently download our podcast. Share it.
We need beer money.
Yeah, we need beer money, and share it with your friends and family. We are trying to grow our listener base, so please, if you like our podcast, please tell your friends and family about it. Until then, be safe, guys. We appreciate you listening, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you for tuning in to Lagers and Loudmouths. Be sure to never miss an episode by subscribing to us on your favorite podcast streaming service. If you would like to provide feedback or suggest a topic for a future episode, please reach out to us at lagersandloudmouths@gmail.com.